What's going on, everybody? Meteorologist Brandon Lawson here in the Pinpoint Weather Center on Saturday morning, tracking the latest on what will be future Tropical Cyclone Imelda. Now, this storm has obviously been in the news on social media a lot here over the last several days, and it still technically hasn't even formed into a tropical cyclone Imelda yet. It's a potential tropical cyclone, likely going to be more of a depression as we go through the day today, and then eventually become tropical storm Imelda as it approaches the Bahamas later tonight and into tomorrow morning. So I do have some good news for us this morning when it comes down to our forecast. The impact of the storm actually is looking like it's going to be a little less on us here in the Queen City News viewing area. Now, that's not to say we're not going to see any impacts at all, but I'm not expecting horrific, horrible, catastrophic impacts that some weather models were outputting earlier this week. Let's take a look at some of the data and show you what things are suggesting as we go into next week. So this is as of this morning. The latest weather model trends are now stalling Imelda offshore before the storm even makes landfall in the Carolinas. Now, that's good news for us because Humberto, the strong hurricane, major hurricane this morning, that is just east of Imelda, would eventually catch up to Imelda. They'd get close enough, and the strong force from Humberto would pull Imelda back out to sea. That would lower the overall significance of the storm for us in the Queen City News viewing area. And even further southeast of us towards the coastline, they'd see significant weather, but it'd be absolutely less significant if we can get this thing to stall before moving on and then pulling out of here as quick as it possibly can. Heavy rain and flooding still could be a possibility, though, especially heavy rain as we go through Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll get more into timing here in just a moment. But first, I do want to show you some of the long-range model data here and show you why I'm feeling a little bit better about this forecast this morning. So notice the little lines here. These are all the spaghetti plots, and it essentially is showing all the different ensemble members from the tropical models out there, giving you several different models to kind of choose from here. And notice how they're all, especially here, you see this like right in here, how they're real tight and real close together. That's a sign that models are kind of agreeing with one another. Now, you still have your outliers. You still have some out here. I mean, this one's way out here. You have some that are trying to bring in the Florida, just one there. So there's still some outliers, but there's less outliers than what we had earlier this week, where we had just a big spread of model data on several different locations in regards to where the storm might be headed. A lot of them are just kind of pushing the storm right there towards Charleston and just stopping the storm in its tracks and eventually pushing it back out to shore. So obviously this will be very impactful along the coast when it comes down to storm surge, high surf, coastal flooding, beach erosion, things like that. But if this storm was to make landfall and head up through Charlotte and up into the mountains, obviously it would be a bigger impact for us here locally in the Queen City News viewing area. Notice there's no lines this morning going through Charlotte. No models right now are taking this storm through Charlotte. So that is very, very good news. Now, this could change. The models have been changing a lot here lately. So that is something we'll keep an eye on. But right now, I am pretty optimistic about conditions being a little less significant for us. So here's a look at the tropical outlook. We've got potential tropical cyclone 9 over the Caribbean islands, trying to push northwest towards the Bahamas. And then we've got a very powerful hurricane just off to the east. That's Hurricane Humberto. It's a major hurricane category 4 storm. So that is a monster storm. Now, it's not too big when you look at it in size, but it's got some force with it for sure. So I want to talk about why this forecast has been so difficult. I know it's been hard. I know you've seen so many different things on social media about 15 inches of rain, 3 inches of rain. We don't know what's going to happen. This might happen. The reason for this is because the weather model data has had a hard time picking up on not only weak steering currents, but also the fact that these two storms are this close together. So, models Monday through Wednesday had a slower Imelda track. And that essentially was going to allow Humberto and Imelda to be really close together. And if they're within 870 miles, we get what's called the Fujiwara effect, where the storms are basically rotating around a common axis, with the stronger storm, which would be Humberto, to the northeast here, the strongest storm to the northeast. That would take kind of more control, and that would just pull Imelda away there. So you kind of see how they're rotating around each other, but Humberto would get pulled less than Imelda because it's a stronger storm. So Imelda would get pulled off the coast, and it wouldn't even get really close to landfall. And there were some models that were still bringing it close to the coast, but a slower Imelda track Monday through Wednesday, that would really help us out. Now, let's get forward here. Models Thursday and Friday. Dramatic change in the models. This was a huge shift. So models yesterday and Thursday were saying these systems are going to be too far apart. The steering currents aren't necessarily as weak as we thought they would be. And that high pressure center, which is just to the north of us, that big ridge of high pressure that's really keeping Imelda from going further north, that was going to be further north. And this storm was going to be able to just make landfall in the Carolinas because it was going to be too far away from Humberto, and it was going to have enough steering, and also a little low that's going to be kind of over the southeast was going to kind of pull the system in. So everything was kind of working out Thursday and Friday for the weather models to be like, you know what, Imelda is going to make landfall, it's going to come through the Carolinas coast, and then work its way up into the Charlotte metro and just stall out for a few days. That would have been the worst case scenario for us because, A, we would have had days of rainfall, and it would have been significant rainfall as well. So just days of just constant tropical moisture. That would have led to widespread flooding, possibly historic flooding in some areas. And then we would have also had to worry about severe weather, maybe the potential for tornadoes too. That would have been the worst case scenario for us. But then this morning, you get up, even last night models were starting to show it. Imelda is now in the weather model stalling offshore. And then what happens is Humberto catches up to Imelda, and it's like, no, I'm taking you back. I'm pulling you back here. It's almost like a little tug of war happening here. And it just pulls it away. And that is the latest trend, and models have really been consistently trending towards that solution. That would be really, really good news for us. And that would keep the impacts a little bit lower here in the Carolinas. So let's go ahead and show you the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. It has this as a tropical depression as we go through the day today. Tropical storm tonight moving through the Bahamas. Probably going to be a lot of flooding there for the Bahamas. And then as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday, notice how this storm becomes a Category 1 hurricane. It's approaching the Carolinas coastline. On Wednesday, though, you kind of see it starting to make that turn and then just kind of works its way out to sea. I'm sorry that everything's kind of boggled over itself there. I can actually fix that for us so you guys can get more of a clear picture of what's happening here. Let me replay this track for you just so you can get an idea of this. So essentially, you got tropical depression today, or tropical depression at some point today. It's potential tropical cyclone 9. It works its way into the Bahamas as a tropical storm tonight and into tomorrow morning, and then Category 1 hurricane by Tuesday, possibly Monday night. And then as you go into Wednesday, notice how this thing just stops. It just stalls out. So that is actually great news that the National Hurricane Center is also picking up on this. And then Thursday, there's the turn. There's that turn out to sea. And when you look at Charlotte, Boone, Raleigh, notice how we're not under the cone of uncertainty. That's also some good news. National Hurricane Center feeling a little bit more confident that we wouldn't have to worry about the eye of the storm. Now, again, I do want to caution you, this does not mean we're not going to see anything at all. We will still get rain, especially Monday, Tuesday, and through early Wednesday. That will be the rainiest part of next week. Timing would be late Monday through Wednesday. We're looking at 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. That would be likely as we go through the course of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Late Monday through early Wednesday seems to be the general consensus of the models. The impacts will be localized flash flooding. Flash flooding would be the main impact that we'd see out of this, and it looks like it's going to be more localized depending on how some of the rain lines up. I can't tell you where the greatest threat of flooding is right now. I do think the greatest threat for more widespread flooding, flash flooding, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is going to be east of I-77, but as you're getting west of I-77, the details do get a little bit more murkier. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Weather Prediction Center's forecast here for rainfall. We're looking at 2 to 4 inches of rain from the Weather Prediction Center. So, and notice how, totals are still high up in Boone, Jefferson, even though they're a little bit further west. Well, you get a lot of upward motion, so the air is going to be kind of moving up along the mountains, and that upward motion of air is just going to create moisture as well there. But luckily, this isn't going to be anything, not even on the scale of what we saw with Helene. A lot less rain, but it is going to be a lot of rain within a couple of days and produce some flooding impacts. But notice where the more significant rain will be, southeast of us, as you're getting down towards Columbia, Charleston, Florence. We're looking at 4 to 5 inches of rain from Columbia to Florence, and then down towards Summersville and Charleston, you're looking at more 7 to 10 inches of rainfall. Same for Myrtle Beach and up into Wilmington. They obviously will have storm surge to worry about too along the coast. But this forecast could definitely change. There's still a lot of elements that could change with this forecast here as we go through the next couple of days. So just stay up to date through the weekend. The weekend does look pretty unsettled here, at least to start. I do think we'll get some lulls in the rain that we're seeing today with more scattered showers through the evening, so maybe some Charlotte FC delays tonight, and then we're dry for Sunday. Sunday's going to be really nice. Sunday's a good day to maybe prep for days of having to be in after working or whatnot, because we are going to have a good amount of rain starting Monday, late Monday, and continuing through at least Wednesday. So Sunday's really nice. Perfect day to maybe get out with some friends, watch some football, things like that. And then here comes the storm. So this is Monday morning. We're still dry Monday morning here locally. Notice, there's Imelda. It's starting to come to its stop there at about 8 o'clock Monday, but the rain is still stretching into our region. So the tropical moisture still works its way in, and you're tracking potentially some heavy, heavy rain just continuing to line up over the area through the day on Tuesday and possibly into Wednesday as well, before things start to kind of clear out a bit as we go later into the week. So I do think things will improve gradually later in the week and into next weekend, which will be good for the Charlotte Roval weekend because NASCAR will be in town. Here's a look at your 7-day forecast. Again, unsettled to start the weekend. Hit or miss showers and storms this afternoon. Could have a delay for Charlotte FC tonight. Sunday does look better. 20% chance of rain, 81 degrees. I almost went completely dry tomorrow. It looks really great. And then we'll have tropical rain starting next week. Monday, I think most of the day will be dry, but then late Monday, we'll start to see those rain bands move in. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, that appears to be some of the wetter parts of it, especially Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be a wet day. We got 60% chance of rain now, but that's going to go up. We'll probably, I believe Chief Meteorologist Tara Lane will be filling in for meteorologist Andrew Brightman later this evening. I would not be shocked if she ups that. Probably be more at about 80% chance of rain for Tuesday. And if we did have pinpoint weather alert days next week, Tuesday would likely be the day for it, when I would expect we'd see most of the flash flooding in our area when it comes down to some of those localized high water issues. So that's a look at your forecast, and that's a look at the update on what will be Tropical Cyclone Imelda, really a tropical depression as we go through the day today, and then Tropical Storm tonight, working its way into a Category 1 hurricane as we go into Monday, and then stalling offshore of the Carolinas and working its way back out to sea. Could the forecast change? Yes. Could it change dramatically? I don't believe so. I do think the models are starting to get a very good idea on this. But again, any change in the track, 100 miles west, 100 miles east, could gradually change conditions for our region as we go through early next week. I'm meteorologist Brandon Lawson. Have a safe and fun weekend. We'll keep you updated all weekend long. I'll provide more updates as they come. If there's any dramatic shifts in the pattern, we'll be sure to be the first to let you know here in the Pinpoint Weather Center. Also, download our Pinpoint Weather app. It's free on the App Store and Google Play Store, and I'll give you all the information that you need as well on there. Take care.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's App Store.